So after Dabrunski revealed Metamorphosis, a helmet that I think is going to be used on every endgame melee build that's trying to hyper min-max in pre-buff, got a lot of feedback saying, it's too clunky, nobody would do it. Now, I just want to remind people that there are people who pre-buff for Venom, there are people who pre-buff for their Enchantress with Demon Machine that literally swap out an entire inventory of charms. Even pre-buffing on Immortal Sorc requires you to go out, battle command, swap to a memory staff, and have enough space in your inventory to hold your shield and your CTA, then cast Energy Shield, then swap back to your CTA and shield, and then cast battle command, and then cast battle orders, and then go put that back into your stash so you have enough space to be able to pick up items. But you know what? I'm not here to split hairs. I'm not here to make petty arguments. But then my boy Kano just revealed the new Runeword Hustle, and if you weren't pre-buffing before, you're probably going to be pre-buffing now. And again, to give credit where credit's due, I'll go ahead and let him explain it because he does a great job highlighting the item, and then I'm going to break down where I think its use cases are, but let's listen to him first.
Now let's get into the Runeword. The weapon provides a 5% chance to cast level 9 Burst of Speed, which is honestly huge for any melee class looking to use this weapon in the early game. It is also an amazing pre-buff alternative for something like Ubers or Declone in the earlier stages of the ladder. Similar to the Fade proc from Treachery, but with about a minute less on its duration. The armor on the other hand doesn't come with the Burst of Speed proc, but it does provide you with a whopping 50% faster arm walk, 20% increased attack speed, 20% faster hit recovery, plus 10 to dexterity, and 50% slower stamina drain.
Now I figured I'd start with the Hustle Armor, since you can build this into a weapon and an armor, and this one's just easier to compare and contrast against other contemporary pieces that you might be using at a similar stage in the game. From the Shael, Ko, and Eld, you're going to get your 20 faster hit recovery, your 10 dexterity, and your 50% slower stamina drain. And then the Runeword itself is going to gain you the 50% faster run walk and 20% increased attack speed. Right off the bat, this is good for anybody who is pre-teleport or will not gain access to teleport, and is obviously melee focused because of the increased attack speed. Other contemporary Runeword armors like Stealth and Smoke go to show off more specialized options that you can get at a similar time in the game. Obviously, Stealth is a lot earlier, but Smoke is right around the time that you could be expecting to get a Shael and a Ko from Nightmare Countess. And yes, for the Ko rune, you would need to cube up to it, but we're talking about Nightmare, right? You're able to drop a Ko rune at this point. On Smoke, you wouldn't get the faster run walk, but you get the 50 all res instead. On Stealth, you're not going to get the increased attack speed, but you're going to get a little bit of that faster run walk and also faster cast rate. So you're trading off this survivability or this faster cast rate for using teleport on swap to just have a massive boost of faster run walk on the armor itself, and then that increased attack speed so that you don't feel bad wearing this armor. You're actually enabling your ability to attack and use attack skills. Twitch Throw, I think, is actually the best example of the armor, and when we were talking with the developers, the one that I went, you know what? Would I pay a Shael and a Ko to add on a ton of faster run walk to a Twitch Throw? And the answer was yes. So while you don't get the increased chance of blocking, which at this early stage of the game is completely null and void, and you obviously don't get the 10 strength, instead you get the 50 faster run walk. All in all, I like the armor. One of the major issues with it though is that while that faster run walk is huge, especially considering we're about to go pre-buff with Burst of Speed, and my boots at this point can already have 30 and 40 fast run walk on them if I go shop magic boots, I don't think it's really supporting the purpose or fixing the issue of adding mobility to the game pre-Enigma. Just like Kano says in his video, I would highly recommend the addition of teleport charges onto this Runeword, anywhere between 5 to 10. While spamming teleport is obviously the best mobility option in the game, in the mid game and even early late game, most melee builds can't afford to stack as much faster cast rate as you would need onto the build to be able to make use of permanent spamming teleport. Or at the very least, it wouldn't even be that much faster than just running in the first place. You start to see that purely teleporting isn't really that much faster until you're able to get into late game and stack upwards of the 105 breakpoint, etc. across the different classes. But what 5 to 10 teleport charges on the based armor itself would really go a long way to solve is just being able to teleport over those walls in places like the catacombs, Durance of Hate, and in the Tower Cellar, so that non-sorceress classes can at least compete without needing to use a teleport staff. Now, I personally just use the teleport staff, but I'm coming from a speedrunner background where that's just the norm. You just swap to teleport and you build a character so that you can survive with teleport on swap. That being said, it comes with a bunch of downsides. You're not as easily able to stack magic find on your swap, etc, etc. I get the criticism that giving early game access of teleport would go a long way, and right now it's just slightly too clunky for the more casual or less try-hard player base to be able to really utilize well. Again, 5 to 10 teleport charges, so if I can just see Catacombs level 4 over the wall, but I would need to run all the way around to get there, being able to teleport over that wall would go a really long way to smooth out that early game existence and potentially incentivize people to actually play non-sorceresses to start off. Hell, if they wanted to go really spicy, I'd even say throw on a replenish charges every 3-second mod onto it and just give you something like 3 to 5 charges like you have over in Project Diablo 2. Now, what is really spicy is the hustle weapon. So let's go ahead and just show you what the hustle weapon looks like and why this thing might actually be a wee bit busted. So without considering the endgame potential for this item, it's going to say 5% chance to cast a level 9 burst of speed on striking. The Shael rune is going to get you 20 increased attack speed, and the Runeword itself has an additional 10% for a total of 30% increased attack speed. The Ko rune is going to give you 10 dexterity, and the Eld rune is going to give you damage and attack rating versus undead. On top of that, I believe Kano said that the weapon rolls 100 to 150 enhanced damage as well. So put it all together for a Shael, Ko, and Eld and a 3-socket weapon, you have a pretty lackluster weapon. Now, that being said, depending on what weapon bases you can put this into, it's definitely one of the options for a high DPS option really early on in an ethereal base for a mercenary, especially since they'll be able to proc the burst of speed on themselves as well, gaining additional attack speed and run walk speed, which is relevant because your mercenary will literally engage monsters faster if they can walk faster. As an offhand for an Act 5 mercenary, it's actually pretty decent for the cost. Again, toss it into an ethereal base, throw it on him, and watch him absolutely smack. The weapon is missing something like increased attack rating, ignore target defense, minus target defense, or target defense reduced by %. I don't really think at this point in Nightmare you can really afford to not have some extra chance to hit on the weapon, considering you can just go make a crescent moon. And you might be thinking, wow, Mac, that was kind of a downturn. I figured you'd want to be hyping up this Runeword. Well, I'm going to, because none of that matters. This thing says burst of speed proc on striking. So burst of speed, if you are unaware, is going to give you 44% attack speed. Now again, this isn't like 44 increased attack speed on your gear. That undergoes diminishing returns. This is just a flat amount of increased attack speed. Add on the fact that it's going to increase your run walk speed by 51%, and it lasts for 216 seconds, or 3 minutes and 36 seconds for people who are counting. Now, what does it mean that you can just add 44 increased attack speed to a character without any other gear at all, and all you need to go is go whack some monsters for a little bit to wait for the burst of speed to proc? Well, let's go ahead and just look at something like the Amazon and the Barbarian, their normal attack rates, and then what happens when you add on the burst of speed proc. I went and I made my own hustle runeword in single player using a hero editor. If you haven't joined my Discord, I will have the character file available there so you can go download it in case you wanted to try it out yourself. I even customized an Arctic belt to just give you +9 to burst of speed if you're just looking to check out the buff itself as opposed to trying to see how often the item will proc. So here we have an Amazon. All she has on is a hunter's bow and no other gear to speak of. And I'm just going through the different arrow skills that she has just to show you the average attack rate for each animation. Using the burst of speed item that we made ourselves and just showing you the proc on the item. Now check out these animation attack speeds. The same thing here. I just wanted you to look at what a character who has absolutely no run walk speed on them base would normally look like, so that you can get an even better comparison point after again we cast that level 9 burst of speed from the modded gear and then show the same run animation. So here I just wanted to look at the Barbarian with their double swing, frenzy, and double throw animations, see what they look like with no other stats on the character. The best part about the Barbarian is that on swap you could actually have 2 of these weapons, which would increase the effectiveness of proccing it for your pre-buff routine. And then with that level 9 burst of speed, looking again at what double swing, frenzy, and double throw animations look like, and the attack speed is already pretty nuts. Now the best part about the Barbarian too, especially for a dual wielding Barbarian, is that you also have the skill Frenzy. So keep in mind, this is a level 1 frenzy that we're about to show with the addition of the burst of speed buff. Let's go ahead and use the buff. get our frenzy movement speed on as well by attacking a couple monsters, and then you can see just how ridiculous this gets with no other gear on the character at this point. This alone on an early game frenzy barbarian, the movement speed that you get here is absolutely bananas. And I promise you would be a lot faster than just teleporting with a staff on swap. Then you add on the attack speed on something like Double Throw, which already has its innate 50% increased attack speed, then the frenzy buff with the burst of speed buff, and you start to get something truly ridiculous. Also, the fact that you could get this pre-buff and throw on the armor, so now you have frenzy buff, the burst of speed buff, and the 50% run walk from your armor, and then throw 30% run walk on your boots with your increased speed passive. And we're starting to hit those back in the day black screen barbarian run speeds where the game literally couldn't load fast enough to show your progression. Now, if I could go even further, since Hustle is definitely the harder one to pre-buff with, since it's only a 5% chance to proc at this point, I definitely think that that percentage should be increased something closer to 15 or 20%. I don't think the intention of the weapon is to sometimes have a burst of speed proc up. I think it's to have burst of speed up the majority of the time, and while you could argue the low proc chance is supposed to disincentivize endgame builds from pre-buffing with it, I don't really see a reason why the early and mid-game melee character should be punished with a low chance to proc, meaning that upwards of the first minute or two of their farming session, they might have to wait for this thing to go off. So I would love to see that percentage brought up to at least 20%. Considering this is also going to give you run walk speed on top of the massive increased attack speed buff, there is a world where you pre-buff with Hustle, then you throw on your Wolf Howl, you turn into a wolf and you put on Metamorphosis. You then pre-buff with Wolf and you swap into Werebear. You then pre-buff with the Werebear Metamorphosis proc as well, you throw your Ariats back on, you swap over to your main hand, and then you run so fast that you're able to punch a hole through the universe. Oh, and just for shiggles, you swap over to Act 3 Mercenary, go out into combat, wait for him to enchant you, and then you swap back to your base Mercenary, and then you throw on your Arachnid's Mesh belt and you cast Venom on yourself. At this point, I'm getting a bit silly, but you understand the point that I'm trying to make. This is another great example of a rune word that's clearly supposed to have a singular purpose, that when you begin to look outside of the confines of the item itself and what the other possibilities are, the situations where meme builds and slightly underpowered builds and just in general people looking to hyper min-max their character are starting to really inflate into something that I personally enjoy. I think it's awesome that we're seeing stuff like this come to the game, because it really does allow industrious people and people who are willing to try a little bit harder to take those builds that they otherwise can't manage to make work and give it that little bit of power spike that it needs to at the very least be fun and enjoyable. Let me know what you think. As always, I'd love to hear from you. Again, shoutouts to Kano for revealing the rune word, and thanks to Blizzard and Diablo for letting us reveal these rune words just before the PTR launches so that we have all of the best people thinking about what we need to test to see just how powerful these things are. Thank you again so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.